Hello, thank you for joining me today. I wanted to go over a quick tutorial about doing clean coils off the spool. It's a little bit of an unconventional method that not a lot of people do, but I really prefer it for my style. Items that you're going to need to perform this method are, of course, a spool of wire, and unlike normal wrapping, instead of cutting a specific length off this, you're just going to be pulling the wire off the spool, and you're going to be wrapping against the tension you create by holding the spool itself. Another tool I like to suggest keeping on hand is some nylon tipped flat clamp pliers. Mine are quite destroyed, I've used them a lot, but using these you can pinch and straighten your wire without causing any damage to the actual metal. For base wire, I always like to suggest using a squared wire, just because if you use round on round, a lot of times the wire that you're wrapping on it will end up slipping back and forth because there's not enough surface area contact. The squared edges really helps to hold the wire in place. For this demonstration, I've taken and cut a 3-inch piece of a square 21 gauge base wire, and I'm going to be wrapping around it with a 28 gauge round dead soft wire. The first step of this process is to take and bend one of your ends into a 90-degree angle, and basically what you're creating is a lever that you can use to twist upon. If you're building on a full pendant already, then you can take and imagine that your pendant is that 90-degree angle that you can use to twist upon. Okay, so the first step is you're going to take your coil, you're going to unspool a length, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this coil between my knees. That way you can take and hold it, but you can release the pressure so that you can let it uncoil and give yourself more length. With the coil pinched between my knees, I've taken and wrapped about 5 or 6 wraps on this wire. You can see up at the L bend on this piece, I wrapped it around a little extra. That's in case you're using, say, a rounded wire and your wire is slipping. You can tie it up to that end, that way it doesn't continue to slide back and forth. Alright, so now comes the fun part. All you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to hold your one end. I like to hold it very close to where the wire is engaging and actually wrapping. And all you're going to do is you're going to twist your lever. It might be a little bit difficult at first, and that's just because it's very flimsy before it gets a lot of wire on it. But as you get roughly 1 inch to 2 inches into your piece, you're going to notice that it's all of a sudden going to become very, very uniform. And then you're going to be able to twist faster and more progressive. I always like to suggest that as you get about 1 inch into your actual wrapping, you can take and straighten your L bend and then move it closer to your point of wrapping. And that'll help keep your entire length of wire from wobbling all around. Okay, so I skipped just a little bit ahead, and that's because I want to demonstrate that as you get closer into your piece, instead of pinching right next to the wire, I like to pinch right on top of where it's wrapping, and that way you can hold it with pressure to make sure that it'll sit directly on the wire that it's wrapped before it. And then as you keep going in this process, you'll notice that you can get a lot more speed into it. And, granted in this situation, it's just a single coil, not on a pendant. It might be a little harder if you're trying to twist a full pendant and, say, work around any extra wire ends that you do have hanging off. But this is going to give you some very, very clean and consistent coils. The main purpose of taking and holding the coil between your knees is the fact that you get to keep a lot of tension on the leftover wire that's going through. When you cut the length and you try to wrap like this, a lot of times taking your hand and twisting things causes the rest of the wire to get bent out of shape, and then when you put it onto your piece, it ends up having a slight wave to it that you can't really rebend back out.